Have you ever looked at your morning protein shake and thought, this is keeping me healthy? What if I told you that very same shake could actually be speeding up kidney damage faster than eating a donut every day? I know that sounds hard to believe, but I've seen it happen again and again in my patients, especially those over 60 who are doing their best to stay strong and healthy. They come into my clinic tired, swollen, frustrated. They've been eating clean, avoiding junk food, and following advice they believe is healthy. Yet their kidney numbers keep getting worse. Their creatinine climbs, their ankles puff up, and their energy slowly fades. It doesn't make sense to them because they're doing everything right, or at least what they thought was right. Here's the truth that most people never hear. They're following a plan built for healthy kidneys, not for kidneys that are already struggling. And when your kidneys start to weaken, the rules change. What's good for a 20-year-old athlete isn't always good for a 65-year-old with blood pressure that's been creeping up for years. For healthy kidneys, extra protein builds strength. For weakened kidneys, that same protein can quietly turn into poison. Every scoop of the wrong protein creates waste products, nitrogen, phosphorus, and acid, that your kidneys must filter out. When those filters are damaged, that waste starts to pile up in your blood, thickening it, slowing circulation, and making every organ work harder. You may feel tired, foggy, or swollen, and think it's just part of aging, but very often it's your kidneys sending out an SOS. Most people never realize this until it's too late. They believe protein is always good and that more protein means more muscle, more energy, and a longer life. But when kidney function drops below 60%, that same power protein starts working against you. The body can't clear it fast enough, and over time, those invisible byproducts quietly damage the very organs that keep you alive. That's why I made this video, because the truth can literally save your kidneys. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the 6 types of protein that silently harm your kidneys and the 4 that can actually help them heal. Once you understand the difference, you'll never look at your meals the same way again. And before we start, if you haven't subscribed yet, take a moment to do that now and click like so you don't miss any of my upcoming health videos. Together, we'll make sure the choices you make truly protect your kidneys and strengthen your body from the inside out. Here's where most people get it wrong. Protein itself isn't the enemy. In fact, it's essential for maintaining strength, repairing tissues, and keeping your metabolism active. The problem lies in how your body handles protein when your kidneys are no longer at full capacity. Every single gram of protein you eat breaks down into nitrogen, phosphorus, and acid. When your kidneys are healthy, those waste products are filtered out through tiny structures called nephrons. But when those nephrons become damaged over time, that waste starts to build up in your bloodstream. Imagine pouring coffee through an old clogged filter. The water doesn't flow the way it should. It backs up, it thickens, and it leaves behind residue. That's exactly what happens inside your kidneys. The waste that should leave your body begins to linger. Your blood becomes thicker, your circulation slows, and the toxins that were meant to be excreted begin to affect every organ that depends on clean blood flow. This is why fatigue, brain fog, nausea, and swelling are not random signs of aging. They are warning signals. Your kidneys are trying to tell you they're overwhelmed, and this isn't rare. According to the National Kidney Foundation, about 37 million Americans are already living with some stage of chronic kidney disease. What's even more alarming is that nearly 90% of them have no idea. They feel fine until suddenly they don't. By the time the first symptoms appear, much of the damage has already been done. You see, when your kidney function falls below 60%, your ability to filter protein waste begins to decline rapidly. What used to be a source of strength can now become a burden. Protein doesn't suddenly turn bad, but the same amount that once fueled your body starts to overload your kidneys. Instead of clearing out nitrogen and phosphorus efficiently, your system begins to struggle. That buildup increases acidity in the blood, making your body work even harder to stay balanced. And here's the hidden danger. The foods that cause the most harm often don't look harmful at all. They're not fast food burgers or greasy fries. They're the healthy choices you see every day. High protein shakes, lean deli meats, even canned beans or protein bars. They wear the label of health, yet for aging kidneys, they quietly pile on more stress with every bite. That's why understanding this isn't about giving up protein. It's about learning which kinds your kidneys can actually handle and how much your body truly needs. Because the difference between protein that builds you up and protein that breaks you down comes down to timing, quantity, and quality. Once you know that, you can eat in a way that supports your kidneys instead of exhausting them. Let's start with one of the most deceptive foods in the American diet, the kind that hides in plain sight and proudly wears the label high protein. I'm talking about processed meats like bacon, ham, turkey slices, sausages, and deli cold cuts. They look perfectly normal, even healthy when you choose the low-fat or lean version. But what's inside them tells a very different story. These foods are loaded with inorganic phosphates and sodium, chemicals that your kidneys simply can't process in high amounts once filtration begins to decline. Here's what happens. Inorganic phosphates, the kind added to processed meats to preserve texture and flavor, are absorbed almost completely into your bloodstream, nearly 100%. That's twice as much as the phosphorus that comes naturally from real food. When your blood phosphorus spikes, your body tries to balance it by pulling calcium from your bones. Over time, that weakens your skeleton, hardens your arteries, and accelerates kidney scarring. Add the enormous sodium content, often 700 to 1,000 milligrams per serving, and you have the perfect recipe for high blood pressure, swelling, and fluid retention. I remember one of my patients, Robert, a 64-year-old retired teacher. He thought he was eating clean. Every day he made sandwiches with turkey slices on whole grain bread, skipped fried foods, and stayed hydrated. Yet his ankles kept swelling, and his blood pressure wouldn't settle. When we traced his meals, the culprit was clear. Those lean turkey slices were packed with sodium phosphate preservatives. They weren't nourishing his kidneys, they were slowly suffocating them. Once he switched to real food, like baked chicken breast and fresh fish, his labs began to improve, and within weeks, the swelling in his legs started to disappear. If processed meats are the first hidden trap, protein powders are the second, and they're even sneakier because they come disguised as fitness. Whey and casein isolates promise quick, powerful nutrition, but for aging kidneys, they deliver a shock dose your body was never meant to handle. Imagine dumping 20 or 30 grams of protein into your system in just a few minutes. For healthy kidneys, that's a challenge. For kidneys already working at half strength, it's chaos. The nephrons, the tiny filters inside your kidneys, are suddenly flooded with nitrogen waste and phosphorus, forcing them to work overtime to keep up. I once treated David, a 52-year-old software engineer who wanted to get back in shape. Every morning and every evening, he mixed a double scoop of whey protein into a shake. He felt proud of his discipline, but within a few months, his creatinine levels shot up, and he couldn't figure out why. He hadn't changed his diet much, except for that new supplement routine. When we looked at the ingredient list, it was full of phosphate salts, listed under names like sodium hexametaphosphate and calcium caseinate, used to make the powder mix better and last longer on shelves. For his kidneys, it was like swallowing sand. After cutting out the powders and switching to natural sources, egg whites, baked fish, and tofu, his energy started to return. His kidneys didn't have to fight so hard anymore. The truth is, your body doesn't need that instant blast of protein. What it needs is a steady, gentle stream of nutrition that your kidneys can handle without strain. And if protein powders are the quick punch to your kidneys, red meat is the slow burn. Even the highest quality grass-fed beef still carries a heavy load of purines, the compounds that break down into uric acid. For healthy kidneys, clearing that acid is easy. But when your kidney function starts to slip, uric acid begins to linger, forming tiny crystals that irritate and scar the delicate nephron tubes. Over time, those microscopic scratches turn into serious damage. Helen, one of my patients in her late 60s, loved her weekly steak nights with her husband. She was careful. Lean cuts, grilled, no frying. Yet month after month, her uric acid rose, her blood pressure refused to stabilize, and her GFR, a key measure of kidney filtration, kept dropping. When she finally replaced 2 of her steak dinners a week with baked white fish and tofu, the results were remarkable. Her uric acid fell, her energy returned, and for the first time in years, her labs began to move in the right direction. Scientific research supports what I've seen in countless patients. A large study published in JAMA Internal Medicine followed more than 63,000 adults for 15 years and found that every additional daily serving of red meat increased the risk of chronic kidney disease by 23%. The reason is simple. Red meat produces acid, and to neutralize that acid, your kidneys must leach minerals like calcium and magnesium from your bones. The heavier the acid load, the harder your kidneys have to work. Combine that with saturated fat clogging the small blood vessels that feed your kidneys, and you get a perfect storm of metabolic stress. Red meat isn't inherently evil, but after 60, when kidney function naturally begins to slow, it's about moderation. Replacing even a couple of servings each week with fish or plant-based proteins can dramatically reduce that internal pressure and give your kidneys a chance to recover. Now, let's talk about another source of protein that's often seen as harmless, even healthy, but can quietly push your kidneys closer to failure: canned beans and other processed plant proteins. Most people turn to beans, thinking they're the safest choice for heart health and muscle strength. And in their natural form, they are a wonderful food. But the problem isn't the beans themselves, it's what happens once they're canned. Canned kidney beans, black beans, or chickpeas may look nutritious, but inside that can they're soaking in a salty phosphate-rich brine. A single cup can contain more than 600 milligrams of potassium and up to 500 milligrams of sodium. For healthy kidneys, that's manageable. But for kidneys that are already struggling to filter waste, those levels can be dangerous. When potassium builds up in the bloodstream, it interferes with the electrical rhythm of your heart, a condition known as hyperkalemia. It's not just a number on a lab test, it can trigger irregular heartbeat or even sudden cardiac arrest. I once worked with Gloria, a 59-year-old patient with stage 4 kidney disease. She avoided red meat, stayed away from junk food, and made beautiful bean salads every day. She was convinced she was doing everything right, but her potassium kept climbing, her energy dropped, and her bone density tests were worsening. When we looked closely at her diet, the answer was sitting right there on her kitchen shelf: rows of canned beans. Each one was loaded with phosphate preservatives that her body absorbed almost completely. Once we replaced those with dried beans that she soaked overnight and cooked without salt, her potassium levels began to normalize, and within a few weeks, she felt stronger, lighter, and calmer. The lesson is simple. It's not about avoiding beans, but about preparing them the right way. When you cook them from scratch, you remove most of the excess potassium and sodium that cause harm. It's a small change with a big payoff. Now, let's look at another trap, one that's hiding in plain sight on grocery store shelves: the healthy labels. Foods marked as lean, clean, natural, or heart smart often appear safe, especially to older adults trying to eat better. But many of these products still contain hidden phosphate additives and preservatives that quietly burden your kidneys. The problem is, these additives don't have to be clearly listed, and even when they are, the labels can be confusing. You might see words like sodium phosphate, calcium caseinate, or phosphoric acid. These are all red flags for your kidneys. That's why I tell my patients, don't trust the label, read the ingredients. If you see anything that ends in phosphate, it's best to put that product back on the shelf. The less processed your food is, the less work your kidneys have to do. Real, fresh food doesn't need preservatives. It's naturally balanced and much easier for your body to process. And finally, even when you're eating the right kinds of protein, the amount still matters. Overeating protein in one sitting, even if it's healthy protein, puts unnecessary pressure on your kidneys. Think of your kidneys like a filter that needs steady flow, not overload. If you eat 8 or 10 ounces of protein in one meal, your body has to break it down all at once, producing a surge of nitrogen and acid that your kidneys must clear quickly. But when you spread your protein intake evenly throughout the day, about 3 to 4 ounces per meal, your kidneys can keep up comfortably. You'll maintain your muscle, feel energized, and give your kidneys the break they deserve. It's not about cutting protein, it's about balance. Fresh, natural foods eaten in the right portions are powerful medicine for your body, especially after 60. Every small, mindful adjustment, choosing baked fish over bacon, cooking dried beans instead of opening a can, or splitting your protein into smaller servings, adds up over time. And those choices are what determine whether your kidneys stay strong or slowly wear out. After everything we've talked about, you might be wondering, if so many proteins are risky for my kidneys, what's actually safe to eat? Here's the good news. Not all protein harms your kidneys. In fact, some can actually help them heal, rebuild balance, and restore energy. And the first one might surprise you, because it's something you probably already have sitting in your kitchen: plain white rice. For years, carbs have been labeled the enemy. People over 60 often tell me they avoid rice because they've heard it's bad for blood sugar or weight control. But when kidney function starts to decline, white rice becomes one of your body's best allies. It's gentle, low in potassium, and very low in phosphorus, two minerals that can overwhelm your kidneys if you get too much of them. White rice gives you clean, steady energy without forcing your body to break down muscle for fuel, which is what happens when you don't eat enough carbohydrates. When that happens, your body turns to your own muscle tissue to create energy, flooding your bloodstream with nitrogen waste that your kidneys must then clean up. So, instead of avoiding rice, think of it as a cushion for your kidneys. Half a cup of cooked white rice contains about 2 grams of protein and very little phosphorus. That may not sound like much, but it makes a big difference when your goal is to reduce the daily metabolic burden on your kidneys. The glucose from rice helps spare muscle breakdown, keeps your energy stable, and allows your kidneys to rest and recover. I had a patient named Aaron who was terrified of carbs. He'd been told to cut them out completely. The result was fatigue, brain fog, and muscle loss. His body was literally breaking down itself for fuel. Once we added small portions of white rice back into his meals, paired with gentle proteins like tofu or baked white fish, his energy returned, his labs improved, and he felt stronger than he had in months. The key isn't to overload your plate. It's balance. The right mix of rice and kidney-friendly proteins can transform how your body feels and functions. And that brings me to the next food, one that doesn't just protect your kidneys, but actively helps them heal: organic tofu. I know, tofu doesn't sound exciting, but don't underestimate its power. Inside that simple block lies one of the cleanest, most kidney-protective sources of protein you can eat. Unlike animal protein, soy protein creates far less acid during digestion. That means less stress on your kidneys, less inflammation, and a better acid-base balance in your blood. Research from the Journal of Renal Nutrition and the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition shows that soy protein doesn't trigger the same glomerular pressure that accelerates kidney scarring. Instead, it contains natural compounds called isoflavones that have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, which can slow the progression of chronic kidney disease. One of my patients, Patricia, a 66-year-old woman, had been struggling with stage 3 kidney disease for years. She tried every diet trend she could find, from low carb to high protein, and nothing worked. Her BUN levels stayed high, and she constantly felt foggy and tired. When we switched 3 of her weekly meat-based meals to tofu dishes, grilled, baked, or lightly stir-fried with herbs instead of salt, something remarkable happened. Within a month, her energy improved, her lab numbers dropped, and she told me, "I can finally think clearly again." The secret to tofu's success is in its simplicity. It gives your body the protein it needs without the phosphorus, purines, and acid that come with meat. And it's incredibly versatile. You can bake it, toss it into a salad, or blend it into a smoothie for a creamy texture. Choose organic, non-GMO varieties and season with lemon, garlic, or fresh herbs instead of salt. Your kidneys and your taste buds will thank you. If tofu is the gentle healer, then the next protein is your kidney's reset button. It's clean, light, and deeply nourishing. I'm talking about wild white fish, such as cod, haddock, or halibut. These fish deliver exactly what your body needs. High-quality protein that's easy to digest, low in phosphorus, low in purines, and naturally gentle on the kidneys. I once worked with Richard, a 71-year-old man who dreaded his lab results every time he saw his doctor. His creatinine was climbing, and despite cutting back on red meat and processed foods, nothing seemed to stabilize his numbers. He felt heavy, bloated, and constantly tired. When we replaced his chicken and red meat meals with baked cod twice a week, his health began to shift. Within 2 months, his phosphorus levels normalized, the swelling in his legs disappeared, and he told me, for the first time in years, I don't feel weighed down inside. There's real science behind that change. A 3-ounce serving of cooked cod provides around 20 grams of complete protein, but only about 117 milligrams of phosphorus, far less than beef, pork, or even chicken. That means you get all the benefits of protein without flooding your kidneys with excess waste. Whitefish is also naturally low in saturated fat, which helps keep your blood vessels clear and supports healthy circulation to your kidneys. The omega-3 fatty acids in fish, even in smaller amounts than salmon, help calm inflammation, one of the main drivers of kidney damage. When it comes to cooking, simple is best. Bake, steam, or gently poach it with olive oil, lemon, and herbs. Avoid frying, breading, or using heavy sauces that undo all the benefits. You'll get flavor, satisfaction, and nourishment all in one. Wild white fish proves that eating for kidney health doesn't have to be restrictive or boring. It can be enjoyable, delicious, and deeply healing. And finally, let's talk about the food I call the perfect protein. It's simple, inexpensive, and incredibly effective for protecting kidney function. Egg whites, not the yolks, not the whole egg, just the clean, pure white. Egg whites contain about 3.5 grams of protein each, with only about 2 milligrams of phosphorus. That's practically nothing compared to a whole egg, which has over 60 milligrams. This makes egg whites one of the most efficient, low-waste protein sources on the planet. The protein in egg whites is called albumin, and it has a biological value of 100, meaning your body can use nearly every bit of it without creating excess waste or acid. For someone with reduced kidney function, that efficiency is everything. You get the strength-building benefits of protein without overloading your filtration system. I remember Susan, a 63-year-old woman who came to me exhausted and frightened. She'd cut out nearly all protein because she was scared of making her kidney numbers worse. The problem was, she was also losing muscle and energy. When we reintroduced protein carefully, 4 egg whites a day, scrambled, boiled, or blended into oatmeal, the results were stunning. Within 3 weeks, her phosphorus dropped, her bloating disappeared, and she told me, I finally feel light again, like my body can breathe. The key with egg whites is preparation. Always cook them fully, because raw whites can interfere with biotin absorption over time. You can boil them ahead of time and keep them in your fridge for easy snacks, scramble them with herbs, or buy pasteurized liquid egg whites. Just make sure the label says no added salt or preservatives. Egg whites are proof that sometimes the simplest foods make the biggest difference. You don't need exotic supplements or expensive protein powders. You just need to eat in a way that supports your body instead of overwhelming it. Real, whole food in its cleanest form gives your kidneys the chance to recover, your energy to return, and your health to rebuild from the inside out. Now that you know which proteins help and which ones harm, the next step is to put this knowledge into practice, because understanding something is only the beginning. What truly changes your kidney health is what you do, meal after meal, day after day. I always tell my patients that protecting your kidneys isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Every bite you take is a small decision that either helps your kidneys heal or makes them work a little harder. Start with something simple, a 3-day protein audit. For 3 days, don't change anything yet, just observe. Write down everything you eat or drink that contains protein, your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even snacks. Include the amounts if you can. At the end of those 3 days, look at your list carefully. You'll start to see a pattern. You might notice that certain foods appear more often than you thought, like deli meats, protein shakes, or canned foods. You may also realize just how much hidden phosphorus and sodium have been sneaking into your diet. When you see the truth written down, it hits differently. Awareness is the first step toward healing. Once you've seen the numbers, it's time for small, strategic swaps. This is where transformation begins. Not by cutting everything out at once, but by making smart trades that reduce the strain on your kidneys while keeping your meals satisfying. Replace bacon or sausage at breakfast with scrambled egg whites. They'll give you the protein you need without flooding your body with phosphorus or sodium. Swap out your deli turkey sandwich for a baked cod fillet or a tofu stir-fry. You'll still get flavor and protein, but in a form your kidneys can easily handle. If you've been relying on protein powders, replace them with whole food sources like tofu or white fish. And if you enjoy beans, use dried beans that you soak overnight and cook at home instead of canned ones filled with salt and preservatives. These small substitutions add up faster than you might think. Next, focus on how you cook, because even the best food can lose its benefits if it's prepared the wrong way. Your kidneys love simple cooking methods: baking, boiling, steaming, or grilling lightly. Learn one easy preparation for each kidney-safe protein so you always have a go-to option. Bake your cod until it flakes perfectly. Boil a batch of egg whites at the start of the week for quick snacks, or grill tofu with a drizzle of olive oil and herbs. The more convenient you make healthy eating, the easier it becomes to stay on track. Finally, pay attention to portion and timing. Many people overload their kidneys without realizing it by eating too much protein in a single meal. Instead, spread your protein intake evenly throughout the day. 3 to 4 ounces, about the size of your palm per meal, is enough for most adults over 60. That balance helps your kidneys process waste more efficiently while keeping your metabolism steady and your energy level consistent. When you eat this way, your kidneys can rest between meals instead of constantly playing catch-up. Here's what I want you to remember. This isn't about giving up the foods you love or chasing perfection. It's about building a routine that gives your kidneys a fighting chance. Every meal is a small vote for your future health. Each smart swap, each mindful portion, each home-cooked dish is a signal to your body that you're choosing healing over harm, and those choices add up. Over weeks, you'll start to notice the difference. Clearer energy, lighter body, better lab results. Over months, your kidneys can begin to recover. You have more control than you think. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be consistent. Remember, every meal you eat is a message to your body, and your kidneys are always listening. Choose foods that work with you, not against you, and you'll be amazed at how much strength and vitality you can regain. Each bite truly is a small vote for your future. Your kidney health today is the result of thousands of choices you've made over the years. What you eat, how you hydrate, the habits you've built, they all add up. But here's the good news. The next 6 months, the next year, even the next decade of your kidney health depends on the choices you start making right now.